Hello and welcome to the show. This is Everything Under the Sun. My name is Ty. Hope all of you are taking care of yourselves and treating yourselves with kindness. I want to kind of just start this off by speaking about just how change can occur in our lives and how it can be something that's so amazing in our lives if we're willing to accept it. And I think there was an episode on change, or maybe there wasn't an episode on change, but I've spoken about change so often in this podcast, and it's something that it truly is incredible, and something that I think that so often we try to keep ourselves from doing because maybe we feel as though we've been doing something for so long that that's just who we are, or that it's too late to learn something new. And this is life, like life is change. So life wants to accommodate to the changes that we want to have in our lives. And when you start to accept those changes, amazing things will start happening and start generating in your life. But the stuckness that we feel, whether it's in a situation or in an emotion or just in a other time, in a past time, that stuckness is keeping us from the change that we want to see in our lives. The change that we so desperately want to see in our lives, we are keeping ourselves from doing that by being stuck in a place that we don't want to be in. And in order to find that place that you don't want to be in, you have to look within. There is a child within every person that is crying out for the things that the world has hurt them with. The misunderstandings, the hurt, the pain, the sadness, the feeling of powerlessness. It's something that is affecting each and every one of us in different ways. And it's up to us to give attention to that inner child and give love to that inner child and give strength to that inner child so that you can start making the changes that you want to see. And I'm not going to go too far into this because there is, another episode for that. I'm certain there is. But for now, I kind of just want to exemplify that change is something that's so amazing. And as you look at the change in your own life and recognize that when you took that extra step, when you took that leap, when you decided to do something that you didn't really expect to do, then you met that person that was so amazing, or you had that experience that was so memorable. And as we start accepting more change in our lives, we can start seeing it within ourselves and start seeing it within the world around us. And I think that's where it comes into something that's so amazing, that we can start changing the very things that we see in the world around us by changing the things that we feel within ourselves. And I know that seems so far-fetched for some individuals, and I understand, there's so much pain and sadness and things in the world, challenges or apparent challenges in the world that make it seem so difficult to kind of think about it in this way, or even give time to attend to yourself in this way. But there's always time, because you're always with yourself. And that is the critical piece. So I'm not going to go too much into this, but I was just kind of thinking about this idea of change as I've gotten more and more comments of people speaking about how just the change that they've noticed through this podcast. And at first it made me want to delete the previous episodes of this podcast, the longer ones in the beginning, but I want to exemplify that change is something that can happen on different scales, and as we enter new areas of our lives, it may not be something that is succinct. It may not be something that is free flowing as you may intend it to be. But as you continue moving forward with it and accepting that change, the change will come and things will start happening naturally. So that is just something I'm asking you to accept in your life, but accept it if it feels right for you. Never believe anyone or believe the word of anyone that says to take their word for it. Don't take anyone's word for it. Take your own word for it. Does it feel right for you? Does it feel like something that's meaningful for you? And if it does, then start moving in that direction. Only you know what you love. Only you know what feels good for you. Only you know what that inner child needs to have in their life. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to say about that. I'm not really sure, where that came from, but it's just something that I feel like needed to be said. So this episode today is on creativity, which I think is probably the most significant episodes of this entire show, of this podcast. And the reason for that is, well, I mean, I'm going to get into that in a minute, but I want to thank you all again so much for being here today and joining me each and every week, and for sending in topics and just participating in this. I am so grateful for you and thankful for your time and your energy here. So today's episode is on creativity. If you have any ideas or thoughts or anything that you'd like to send in, you can send those to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com or any of the social media pages that I will link at the end of this podcast. So again, today is creativity. I'm very excited for this episode. Thank you for all the episodes that you're sending in. And for next week or in some kind of following week after this, the episode will be extraterrestrials, which is very, very interesting. So I think that'll be a fun topic, and fun in the way that, we get to dive into this kind of area that has kind of been, in the midst of our attention for some time, whether in the shadows or very overtly. We have a lot to kind of speak about that, and it's, I don't know, it can be a fun topic. So I'm excited for that. Again, everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com if any of you have any ideas or thoughts or anything that you'd like to send in about anything in this podcast. So today the topic is on creativity, and this is something that I already feel is going to be a two-part episode, because creativity is something that I feel to be the essence of who we are as people. It's like there's there's so much in just who we are that is creative. Like we've been told, or maybe you've heard the saying of humans being creative beings, and that's just kind of in our nature. We're constantly creating things, and it's really amazing how this creation comes about, where all these ideas, all these things that are non-physical, they end up in our physical world for us to see and say, like, wow, that person is really creative. Like, how do they come up with something so creative? Yet that creativity is something that dwells within each and every individual. Something that's so amazing is, since the dawn of man, I mean, like, you can look at things. I mean, people are researching artifacts and things from ages ago that people have created. And as you look around the room that you're in, maybe the seat that you're in, or the car that you're driving in, or whatever you may look at, anything that's around you, it started off as the creation within someone's mind. This intangible place, this non-physical place that started off this wonder of, how can I build a solid structure that's going to house a family? How can I build this machine to create sound that vibrates in a way that is audible towards the people that are listening and can adjust it? Everything that is around us, everything that we use, everything that is in our lives, it's something that's created by someone else, or by something else, or maybe by you. This acknowledgement of creativity and the essence, and how it just pervades the very lives that we live, is something that is the first step of engaging more in this creative process, because you're doing it all the time. I mean, creativity is happening all the time. Like, there are thoughts being created in your mind as you listen to this podcast. There are actions that you're taking that are creating other things. They're creating other effects in this world, and creation is always something that is happening. There's life being born. There are plants being grown out of the earth. There's always creation happening, and when you really look at the foundation of creation, you see that it all comes from, it starts from this intangible place, and I feel like there's so much there that needs to be unpacked there, but I really can't unpack this right now. But as far as just the acknowledgement of the things that we can see in our lives, we can see cell phone, we can see water bottles, we can see books and things like that. These all had to be ideas. Someone had to come up with a way of binding these pages together to create a book that people can read succinctly. Like, these are all parts of our creation. And I know that may seem like I'm just obviously like telling you what has been created in the world, but the pure magnitude of what that means, and how it started off as existing from nothing, and it was transposed into this world by the will of the individual. The pure will of the individual made something that's non-tangible into something that was tangible, made something that was unseen into something that was seen. There's a depth to that. We have to understand our role in this creative process, because you're creating every day, as I said. We create our life. That is no pure saying, like, that is just the truth of what it is. We create our lives. And as we look more in this creative process, we start to see that creativity goes into so many different areas. And I'm not going to go too far in depth with this, but, we create different thoughts, and maybe we're thinking about a certain individual, and we're like, wow, like, I wonder how they're doing. And then the next day, it's been, months, maybe even years, and they send a Facebook message, or maybe they give you a phone call. Wow, I was just thinking about you. These are instances that we say are coincidence, but, what is coincidence? You had this person on your mind, and then they call you. You were thinking about, I don't know, finding money, and then you found some money. As we start to just recognize the things that are part of this process that we're creating, part of this world that we're creating, then we have more say in what we are creating in this life. And again, as I'm saying these things, I feel like I'm going over like a lot of things that can be dissected, but the point of this is that we go through our lives and we so often feel as though we're succumbing to the wills of other people or the desires of other people, or feeling as though we just have to move through life and we have no control over it. But this is your control. This is the control. It is the creative that you have within you. It's the creativity that is you. And as we start looking at how the creativity of others have manifested into this world, whether by the words that they say that have lasted long past the years of them walking on this earth, or the creativity and the physical manifestation of the things that they've created, either way, this is the truth of human creation. This is the truth of the creation that you have, the ability that you have to create the things that you want in your life. So a lot of these things, like they are packed, and there are a lot of things that go into it, and a lot of doubts. I know there are a lot of maybe doubts that are going to, or a lot of things that are popping up that will make you feel as though, this is something that's far-fetched, or that there are a lot of other obstacles or things to consider. But at the end of the day, the only thing to consider is that you are constantly creating. You are a creator. So are you creating based off the circumstances that are coming to you? Are you creating a perpetuation of negative circumstances because the world is beating you down and you're accepting that beatdown? The world is telling you that you're weak and you're accepting that you're weak, so you're creating weakness. The world is telling you that you need to be afraid, so you accept that fear and you start creating fear. This creative process is something that if you are not the one that's actively saying what is to be created, then the other wills of the people outside of you are going to send that towards you. And you're going to accept it naturally because it wants to accept something. We are creative, so we constantly want to create. But when we start creating in our best interest and knowing that we can create in our best interest, that's when we start creating the life that we want for ourselves. So the first thing in this process is the acknowledgement of it. Acknowledge the creative forces that are around you. And I think when we start to really dive into just how deep that goes, we can start realizing that we have that very same power. And then when we start owning that power and start implementing it in small ways, then we can start really seeing our life change. And a big thing that I want to stress here is that when I say these words, I know that we want to attack the biggest challenges in our lives, that biggest bear that's just, in the corner, that's just waiting for us to, give it some attention just so it can attack us. But I'm telling you that this process is something that works based on what you believe that you can create in your life. And if if there's an obstacle that you're trying to apply this to, and it's the biggest obstacle in your life, you have a lot of fears, you have a lot of doubts, you have a lot of things that are keeping that there. A lot of things that are perpetuating that circumstance. So don't start there. Start in smaller parts of your life. Wake up in the morning and expect to feel good and feel refreshed when you wake up. Expect to, start creating just small pieces in your life and see how that starts to work. And as we start taking these small steps to creating just the smallest instances where maybe you're like, I want to get like a nice cup of coffee this morning, and you somehow find 10 extra minutes in the day, like usually you're rushing out to work, you find 10 extra minutes to stop by a coffee shop. There just so happens to be no line there, and then you get a nice cup of coffee and you get to work just on time. And it can be a small instance like that where you may not even take a second thought about that, as you like have the thought in the morning, like, I'd love a good cup of coffee. And then you end up getting it and you're sitting at work with this amazing cup of coffee and you're like, wow, I did want a good cup of coffee, and I usually rush to work, but I had 10 minutes extra this morning. There was no line and that place is usually packed. This is amazing. Small instances like that, like we don't have to start big, but start in creating these small instances in our lives where you're like, I want to go to the beach and, have an enjoyable day. So go to the beach and have an enjoyable day. And it seems as though, like this creative process is just us willing ourselves into different circumstances, but that's exactly what it is. It's willing ourselves into different circumstances, and the circumstances that are small, the ones that are like the ones that we can immediately accomplish, do them. And then recognize that you are creating, that you've created something. You've thought of the idea in this non-tangible, this non-physical place, and right in this moment, you're sitting at the beach and it's beautiful, and you've created that. Something with this idea is that it seems like it's something far-fetched for people because they feel as though, I'm just explaining aspects of life when I speak about, going to the beach or getting a cup of coffee, but this is creation. This is creativity. This is what is happening each and every day. And as we believe more and more in our creative selves, we can realize that maybe instead of getting a cup of coffee, maybe you're thinking, I actually want to start a coffee shop. And then you go out and then you say, wow, like that building is for lease. That'd be a perfect place. Let me find out some more information. And then you find out that it's been for lease for a long time, so they drop the price. And then, like all these things will start flowing to you, but that expectation and that creation will start to grow hand in hand as you start to have more confidence in yourself to be the creator that you are. So what I'm speaking about now is conscious participation in this creative process. Because again, creation is happening all the time. It's happening right this very moment. Again, these words may be creating different thoughts in your mind. Maybe it's creating anger, different emotions that are coming up for you. And it may create different actions that are coming out of it. But the creation all stems from you. It comes from what you're receiving. From what you're receiving and what you decide to take from that, interpret, and put back into the world. This creative process is something that, you are an integral part of it, with it being part of your life. But you have to recognize that if there are things that you're taking in that you don't want to take in, then recognize that, because then you're going to start perpetuating it, if not. Because that creative force is going to want to create anything that you decide to take in. So no longer take in things that are disempowering, that make you feel less than, that make you feel unloved. Stop taking in those things, because you are loved, you are powerful, you are amazing, you are creative, you are the creative force in your life, and you can create anything that you want. And as you start to move in that empowerment, you start being the conscious participator in this creative process. The wills of others are not influencing you. They don't pervade that space and that solitude that you have within yourself, of the security of, I know what I want. I know who I am. I know this doesn't feel good, and that isn't in my space. That doesn't belong in my space anymore. And again, this is a process. I'm speaking about the idea of creativity, but this process is something that takes a lot of internal work. As I spoke in the beginning, that change that occurs with that inner child, you have to do a lot of work with that inner child, and it's just giving it love. Non-judgmental love, just unconditional. I know the world put you down. I know that you've been hurt. I know that you've been shit on. I know that things have been bad. I know that you've been hurt. I know that it hurts right now. I know. But I still love you, no matter what. I know it's been stressful trying to reach that goal and strive for that, but no matter what, I love you. And whether you reach that goal or not, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. That is what that child needs to hear. That is what that child needs to hear. That is the strength that that child needs. I heard a saying earlier, and was saying that you are an angel to the inner child. You have the face of an angel to your inner child. So you have to give that love. Like, you are the only one that can give that love that's necessary to give them the strength to start having that empowerment within yourself, to start being the creator that you are, to create the things that you want for yourself. But as long as you're feeling that hurt, that is what you're going to perpetuate, because the world's beating you down and you're accepting that beat down. You're not protecting that child that needs that assurance, that needs that strength. And I know you may feel as though you're identifying so much with that inner child that you feel like you're still there, but you're not. There is a voice inside of you that is stronger and that can be there to love that child. You just have to listen to that voice. So I'm speaking about this idea of creativity, but there are a lot of layers to it. So I know that it may seem like a big step to get to that point of being the creator of your own life and stop taking in those things that are disempowering and things that are putting you down. But this is a process and an ability that you have. You are born with it. It is part of your nature. Become a conscious participator in your own creative world. Start accepting the love that you want to have in your life. Allow it to come in. Don't doubt it. Don't judge it for anything. Don't say that, I want love in this specific way. Allow love, just whatever love, allow love to come in, because love feels good, and maybe you end up finding this puppy that's found a stray and like it needs some love and it gives you love, and wow, this is so amazing. I wanted love, and like there's this amazing puppy that needs some attention, and I'm filled with love because of it. Maybe you get a call because you got some invite to go to, I don't know, some kind of trip to the Caribbean. I don't know. But it's like there's just an abundance that we can allow to flow to us if we allow it to flow to us and not be judgmental. Sometimes we feel as though I need to get out of the situation. I need to get out of the situation in this specific way, and that's narrowing our creativity. At the end of the day, when we want to get out of a situation, when we want to be in a different place, we want to feel something different. So in the last episode, I spoke about, feeling the emotion that you want to feel as if the thing was already accomplished. And that's what this goes into. When we're creating the things that we want in our lives and you're not allowing those disempowering and hurtful things to come into our lives, that is you tuning your station back to the place that you want it to be in. You're back in that vibration that you want to be in, and you're holding on to it. And that's what we have to do in order to stay on this path of creating things that we want for ourselves. You have to just feel it right now in this moment. Know that good things are coming to you. Know that love is coming to you in abundance. And again, like, this is something that's very difficult to do, especially when we have those pains that are within us and deep within us, and constantly showing themselves as the world touches those tenderest parts of us. But as you gain more confidence in yourself, as you give yourself more love, you give yourself more strength, and you're tuning that dial, and you're keeping it attuned to the things that you want. And as you do that, we can be as creative as we want in this life. So you can create the job that you want for yourself. But if you just want a blissful life and the job that you want, then just feel what that would feel like. What does it feel like to have the job that I want, or the relationship that I want, or just the ideal situation that I want specifically? Like, it would feel amazing. And then just think about the rest of your life in alignment with that. Because you don't want just the best job that you have, but in the rest of your life it's just turmoil and destruction. You want harmony in your life. You want peace in your life, and all these different parts of your life. You want abundance in your life. That's what you want. And in the nature of who you are, you know what you want. So as we start moving in our lives, we don't have to direct everything in our lives saying that I want this to happen in this way. We can just start saying, I expect to keep feeling this good feeling. I expect to keep feeling this love, this abundance, the feeling as though I'm creating things in the way that I want to see them in. And maybe I don't know the way I want to see it in just yet, but I know that it feels good, because the way that I continually feel is good. Do you see? It's like you're not expecting it to be in a certain way or to come about in a certain way. You're just expecting it to be. And in this expectation, that's really the last part of this creativity process. It's like we acknowledge it, and then we start being an active, conscious participant in it, and then we have to sit back and kind of let it happen in a non-judgmental expectancy. And I say non-judgmental because so often we feel as though we're doing something wrong if we're expecting good things to come in our lives. I feel like it's so strange to be in a place that you expect good things to come to your life and then feel bad because you're expecting that ease of things to flow, but that's just how it happens. But the thing that gets in our way most often is our judgment. Our judgment of feeling as though, maybe this isn't the right thing, or maybe I should listen to this other person, or maybe I shouldn't go in that direction. Go in the direction that feels good for you. And as we kind of just allow those things to come in and expect them to come in without judgment, then we're allowing that creative energy to flow, and we're allowing our lives to unfold in the way that we want it to come about. And again, you know what you want best for yourself. You have always known what you want best for yourself. So as we start creating our lives, as we start intentionally moving forward towards creating our lives, we have to realize that that inner self that is being hurt by the world, it's obviously being hurt because the true nature of ourselves wants something different. Give healing, give love to that inner child, and start listening to the source of where that love is coming from. The source of where that desire for peace and ease and just enjoyment in life. Something I was thinking about recently is that, everything, I spoke in the last episode about, acting natural, or like just be natural. And as I thought more about that, I realized that humans act in the most unnatural way compared to everything else in nature. Like everything, like the trees and plants, they just grow. The animals, they just, move and fly freely as much as they can, and they don't have worry. They don't have stress. Like the bird doesn't fly around and worry that it's gonna run into a tree because it forgot how to stop or something. But these are things that we kind of worry about. We worry about these instances in our lives, and I know it may be kind of hard to conceptualize because you're like, well, humans are more complicated and more complex, but whatever creative force that you believe in created life, there is an intelligence here. And if there's some kind of intelligence here that understood the evolution of humanity and how we will start to understand more and do more and have more in our lives, and then wouldn't there still be some kind of natural flow that we're allowed to have within our lives? Like I don't know, that's just my kind of conception about it, because it would seem kind of strange for any kind of creative force to create all of life in this perfect harmony to where it can just flow so easily, stress free, without anger or hostility or anything. It just is. It just allows. But then just throw humans in there and be like, well, I just want to shake some shit up in there and, have them be all disorganized and chaotic and not really knowing how to flow in life. It doesn't seem natural to me. The way that we naturally are is we're naturally meant to be in flow and in harmony with things. And as of right now, there's a tension, there's a disruption, there's a chaos, there's a separation, and we feel it within the very people that we come across in our day-to-day lives. We don't have eye contact. We feel sheltered. We feel like we can't express ourselves. There's a distinct separation within us and everything else around us, and it seems as though this is not the flow. I mean, even the birds are attuned with the weather conditions, like the weather conditions of the earth. Before winter comes, they start flying south. And again, they fly south and they don't worry, like, oh, is there going to be enough space there? Like, am I going to be strong enough to make it? They don't worry about it. They just do it. They just go. They just live. And I'm saying some things now that I know may be hard to resonate with, may be hard to be received, but I hope that you're receiving them in some way. I hope that I know that there is some reception in some way, and I hope that you explore that. Explore whatever feelings come up, whether it's some kind of hint of passion or desire or understanding, or maybe it's anger or just complete rejection of this idea, whatever it is. I invite you to dive into that. Explore what that is. Explore what it's telling you. Again, don't listen to anything that anyone tells you. Don't listen to anything that anyone tells you. Listen for yourself and see if it's something that resonates with you. And if it doesn't, explore it more. Explore who you are more. That is part of this creative process. It's helping to create yourself as well. This change that we have within ourselves, within that mental space that we have, that is the creative process. We are creating a new self each and every day. Each and every moment that we make it through that obstacle, each and every moment that we recognize our new strength and our new traits and our new skills, things that we felt like we didn't have before, every time that we notice that, we are creating a new self, a more expanded self, a self that was already there, no doubt, but you're just recognizing it now and realizing it and manifesting it in this world by your very presence, by allowing to be with someone because you've gone through that experience. You've dealt with that emotionally within yourself in this non-tangible space. And now in this physical world, you can go and be with someone else physically and say, I understand. I'm here for you. I'll be here for you. And even if I don't understand, I'm still here and I still love you, because that's what you told to your inner child. And that's what got you out of that. Change and creativity is something that is a constant in our lives. They go hand in hand. And as we understand that more, as we start being the creative force that we were meant to be in our lives, harmony will come about. Harmony will flow into our lives and abundance will flow into our lives. But you have to know it. Listen to yourself, because you are the beacon of light. You are your own lighthouse. Find where your light is bringing you. Find where that energy is bringing you, that feeling of hope and inspiration, of empowerment. That is your lighthouse, and everything else, give it the warmth and the love of that lighthouse in order to bring yourself home. in order to bring yourself into active creation in your own life and watch the beauty manifest. So I feel like there's so much within this idea of creativity, but that's all I'm going to speak about in this episode. There will likely be a second episode on creativity as I kind of dive more into this. I just want to say that I love you all so much, and I value you. And I said this before, but I want you to know this. And I also want you to know that, being the creator of your own life, you've also brought these words to you. You've brought in, through the vibration that you set out, these words to you. And whether you decide to receive them or not receive them, understand that these were brought to you. And that's all I have. If you have any questions or ideas or any thoughts that you'd like to send to this podcast, you can send them to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. You can join any of the social media pages, Instagram, everything.sunpodcast, Twitter, @everysunpodcast, and the Facebook group, @everysunpodcast as well. So yeah, that's all. I love you all, and I will see you next time.